Good morning, good morning. Welcome in the lair of the dragon. We're gonna do the third and final part of yours truly's philosophy thesis, titled The Privilege of Civilization. We'll be right back. Gonna put this on the heater and we're gonna rock and roll. We are going to rock and roll. First and foremost, I want to say that yours truly is grateful, thankful for this cup of coffee. Grateful, thankful that my rent is paid for the month of January. It is January 5th, Thursday. Gotta take the compost out so not forget. It is 11:24 a.m. in the morning. Woke up a little bit moody, started stretching already, started feeling much better. And I went outside in the morning and I shoveled some snow because it was raining, then turned into ice, and then turned into snow earlier this morning. So I got some shoveling to do, a half an hour of a good exercise. So I already feel a little bit much better. I always do. Encourage all, strongly encourage, suggest, and recommend people start working out, training, and exercising on the regular. Working out, training, and exercising has been, is, and will continue to be my medicine and therapy of choice. As yours truly, although I'm broke financially, I'm rich in kisses from the goddess. And if I would have a radio show coast to coast or North America or television show, I would encourage people to work out, train, exercise, and with consent to hug like you never hugged before. Hug like you never hugged before with consent. Hug like you never hugged before. And of course, from the kingdom of the dancing goddess and the dragon empire, and the dancing goddess, which is my, of course, dream for world peace and for the rebirth of the collective North American civilization. We would have a pride every day of the week. It would be a free hug day, free hug days, of course, and we'll wear different colors for people who are willing to give hugs or to receive hugs or XYZ others. I'm grateful for today, grateful for the day, Carpe Diem. We're going to philosophize the third part of the ongoing series, my thesis called The Privilege of Civilization, of which is the third video in a row this week, and of course, of which is my thesis, and will continue after I do other videos on other subjects, such as I did in the past in my Coffee with Dragon philosophic, artistic, meditative sessions. One of them being, of course, the collective North American civilization, the complex of North American civilization, which is another one of my geopolitical, social, political, geopolitical. Most and foremost, as I am an independent geopolitical analyst and theorist, and one of it is, of course, the collective North American civilization, also called the complex of North American civilization, of which I'm the original creator and developer from an intellectual, wide wisdom, understanding, and knowledge perspective, and analysis and conclusions. And of course, that we, of course, myself, I refer myself as a North American mostly. Most things that I'm a North American. Of course, I'm a Quebecer, Québécois, bien comme vous. And of course, Canadian, coast to coast, Canadian, but I am also North American. And as a philosopher, I'm first of all North American, although I'm a world peace advocate and a universal heart. I wish everybody world peace. But of course, the geopolitical events have changed in the past weeks, days, and months, and years. And of course, paradoxically, in a paradoxical, providential parallel way, many of my analysis in 2019, when 2019 have sounded the alarm, what I'm referring to, of course, is in 2019 have created my own workout training program, which was designed, made, and created to go in parallel with a scenario, a World War III scenario, as I'm an independent philosopher, independent analyst, and independent geopolitical analyst and theorist, and I've concluded, based on what I've explored, multi-dimensional facets of the world which had transpired geopolitically, I've concluded that we, humanity, unfortunately, we are again on the path towards another international conflagration. And so, made, created, and produced the General War Integrated Whole Body Training System, aka the Dragon Army Workout, which was made, created, and produced and designed to go hand in hand with an aforementioned World War III scenario. Paradoxically, as well as a world peace advocate, but nonetheless, although I admit that at some things I am mediocre, at some things I am average, at some things I am so-so, while being so-so, average, and mediocre at some things, I am super and excellent at such things as geopolitical analysis. I'm, of course, capable of doing in-depth analysis of regionalities and geopolitical events of the past, on future concordiums and treaties and pacts and developments from a financial, economic, infrastructure, military way, and of course the alliances on the geopolitical factors and the civilizational, cultural factors, what I call the cultural civilizational factors, or the civilizational cultural factors, which include such things such as language, cultures, relation to nation, relation to family, relation to the state, to the government, and so on and so forth. And so I was able back then to say, and I concluded based on several factors, which were, of course, the US-China trade war, which began in 2018 by the Trump administration and which deteriorated Sino-US relations, Sino-Canadian relations due to the arrest of Kathy Meng, aka Meng Wanzhou, by the RCMP to honor an extradition treaty with the United States of America. So Meng Wanzhou was, of course, detained and, of course, arrested. And, of course, she was extradited. And, of course, there was a quid pro quo by China with the Michael Spavor, Michael Kovrig, Michael Spavor, Michael Kovrig. Both Michaels were detained and subsequently in the past months, I believe in June or so, they were exchanging an unadmitted quid pro quo exchange. But it happened so just a few days, 3 days or so later, that it, of course, was pretty obvious that that was the case to most political observers and geopolitical analysts, such as myself, who is a world peace advocate, but who's not perfect, far from it. I do not hide my vices, my lusts, and, of course, I have been open, being, of course, part of the LGBTQ community and androgynous pansexual. Many things don't remember about childhood, early adulthood life. As an adult, I remember mostly about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years so, and everything that I've written in journals on USB keys about life experiences and all my education, which I have, and all the work that I've done during COVID. And I say, of course, on my CV that I put in more work and marched more than the leaders of the free world in steel toe boots. NATO, Mr. Jens Stoltenberg, please, brother Jens Stoltenberg, do say to the NATO troops that you love them, because otherwise, if there's not LOVE and love is action, what are we fighting to save civilization for, is my question to meditate at. Today I'm going to carpe diem and I'm going to work out, train, exercise, continue my journey to write emails to hundreds, 300 of these PMS, what's called in Quebec the Petite et Moyenne Entreprise, for exploration and participation and cooperation in my, of course, philosophic, artistic, and comedic. On 1/7, I am a comedian. 1/7, grateful for this, honey. Grateful that my rent's paid for the month of January. Grateful that my rent is paid for the month of January. My electricity bill is also paid. Thank you, workers, for the past, since 1944, have built 63 dams across this province of La Belle Province for me to have electricity to heat my coffee, to, of course, do this video with clean, zero pollution, zero energy. So since I like to offer more than blah blah blah, I'm going to offer lifetime hugs, supplies by the millions, because hugs, kisses, tickles, and some brain and some muscle do God, although money am broke. I am also grateful for this honey who was harvested, made, and produced right here in La Belle Province, Quebec, in Wotton, the city of Wotton, Wotton. So I'm going to add some of this honey a little bit. I'm grateful, of course, to the government for sending a few $100s to address the inflationary matters, which have, of course, happened and are occurring as we speak, the growing economic, financial, commercial crisis. But today, I am thankful, grateful that I'm able to philosophize and purport my thesis called The Privilege of Civilization while my rent is paid for the month of January, while my electricity is paid as well, and while due to the government. Thank you, Teddy Bear Legault, for the government for those hundreds of dollars. It was appreciated by yours truly, independent Quebec artist, activist, and athlete. And we have privilege of civilization, all of us, even our Prime Minister Legault, Prime Minister Trudeau, and multi-millionaire athletes in the NBA, especially National Basketball Association, because they're the highest average paid of 7.7 million annually, the average salary of the NBA. So our favorite athletes, and I do love basketball. I'm too short to play, but I'm better at dancing. Will they let yours truly dance in the arenas of the NBA, NHL, National Hockey League, NFL, National Football League, and NBA? I'm open to it, and of course, I am open for business. Triple vaccinated. Please, increase in hygiene in public, because since when we step outside of our private domain, which is right here, this private underground room, office, and temple, the dragon's lair, I am private citizen dragon. When I step outside, I'm no longer just private citizen dragon. I am also public citizen dragon. Sure, I can stay 2 meters away and I can dance grabbing on my nuts lang. Sure, I can do that rock and roll, doing in the street, grabbing on the nuts, no problem. I can do that in the park, and I do it on Mount Royal a lot. Do a little bit of dancing like this. A little bit of dancing like this. Yeah, I do it really, but I have this responsibility to also respect others and XYZ. And if so be the case, keep 2 meters away, 2 meters away, 2 meters away off. If people get close, I might ask if they're vaccinated or they hygiene, because hygiene is important for me as a citizen, and we have the responsibility, duty, and obligation for hygiene at this moment in time. So please, increase in hygiene in public. Wash your hands with soap and water, hand sanitizer, and disinfect your hands with soap and water when you step outside. So I'm grateful, thankful for this couple. coffee. Thank you, farmers, butchers, and thank you to my anonymous sister, whom if I make a million, I'm gonna give her half. If I make a billion, I'm gonna give her half. If I make a trillion, I'm gonna give her half for providing me this bread, which I'm gonna have after this session, philosophical session. I'm gonna have it with just simple some mayonnaise. I'm gonna heat it, and I have some ham that I bought on special. I bought it was $2.44. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna get it. I ate half of it last night. I'm gonna eat half of the other half today, so it's gonna be my $1 about estimated $1.56 lunch cost about, okay, more or less. So thank you to the farmers first and foremost, because everybody gotta eat. Even Wall Street, please, Wall Street, if you do make a million on the stock market today, buy, sell, trade stocks, futures, options, puts, commodities, pork bellies, yo, Black Rock, Mr. Fink of Black Rock. Of course, please give 10%. 10% of a million is 100,000. 100,000 you can divide it by 4, make it 25,000 each. 25,000 for food security, because everybody gotta eat. Even Wall Street, 25,000 for women's sports league, because our sisters don't make equal as much, not even close. The women's sports league, the WNBA, women's hockey, women's soccer, not even close economically, financially, commercially. So please, NFL, hut, triple the cheerleaders' salaries, blah 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 blah. And love is action, of course, to just to support women's sports as well. I am, of course, androgynous. I'm willing to tango with all willingly loving who are willingly loving to support my dream first and foremost. The dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, and the dancing goddess empire are one. And of course, that is the public-private partnership, which I'm calling all, and the privilege of civilization. We have, because we all have it. I have it. You have it. Multi-millionaire athletes have it. I saw a movie with the actor Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt has the privilege of civilization and several privileges, such as the economic, financial, commercial, to be able to be paid millions of dollars a movie and other stars. And I was imagining yesterday to Brad Pitt. Now I was imagining that me and Brad Pitt, we have a 1 hour kissing session for world peace. So put it open there. Me and Brad Pitt, 1 hour just kissing will be probably one of the best kissing sessions that Brad Pitt ever do. We could live stream it, and so I said on Instagram, Facebook, blah 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 blah, YouTube. And I'm calling Brad Pitt to see, because I got kisses. I got 718 trillions of kisses. Trillions. 1 trillion is 1,000 billion. 1 billion is 1,000 million from the goddess. So kisses got first and foremost. Money don't, I'm broke, but my work is gold. And I've been imagining. Yesterday I was saying a session, world peace. What am I willing to do for world peace? Well, I'm definitely willing to kiss a lot, to work out a lot, to train, to exercise. And what are you willing to do? I woke up a bit more. They said, still can't afford a massage therapy session as this independent athlete is economically, financially, commercially struggling. But I'm grateful I can take a bath this weekend, take a hot bath Friday, tomorrow after my workout today, which is going to be another hardcore challenge in Tyson Fury, because I heard Tyson Fury was the best and undefeated for my one and only match, boxing match. Dragon versus Fury, Fury versus Dragon, what do you say, blah, 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 for a match, Monroe somewhere for 12 rounds, and that'll be my one and only professional boxing match. Just gonna go against the best, Tyson Fury, and I'm training for it. And against the leaders of the free world, not necessarily against, but to ask for cooperation to box, dance, and implement my trinity of theories: the CIT Citizen Integration Theory, Debt Fusion Theory, DRT, and Democratic Fusion Theory. That trinity of theories that I'm calling all to support the public-private partnership, all institutions and organizations, public and private governments in Canada, first and foremost, throughout the complex North American civilization, throughout North America, all corporations, my brother, astrological Scorpio brother Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, even Elon Musk, to some 50-50s, as I am a pro-labor, universal revolutionary centrist. And of course I can criticize, but I can also offer alternative solutions. And I think what solutions it is, things that we got to focus on. And of course I am far from perfect. My solution for me, to as I've been depressed and suicidal, I've conquered depression, and recognizing my nature. And yes, I admit I'm not without faults, not without lusts, not without XYZ. It's possible that I could, if I could afford it, I could probably go to a strip club once a month, once a month, especially LGBTQ friendly strip clubs, XYZ factors. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't mind to own a rainbow dragon dance club, which would be a semi-strip club, semi-XYZ entertainment and dancing and working out or whatever the case may be. Legal, of course, as yours truly is a philosopher. So now we got that out of the way, as we got other things out of the way, maybe we could focus with solutions. So many things I do not know. So many things I do not know. So many things I do not know. Like in a parallel life, I know I'm a scientist, super scientist in a parallel life, where satellites, supercomputers, ICBM rockets, microchips, and all things related to the internet, super science, telecommunications, satellites, and of course microchips. That is my chosen path in the parallel life. In this life, it is philosophy, art, poetry, spirituality as a universal spiritual teaching student who applies non-dogmatic, non-sectarian. I try to be non-sectarian and non-dogmatic in all things that I do. Non-sectarian, non-dogmatic in all things. Non-dogmatic, non-sectarian in all things. Non-sectarian, non-dogmatic in all things. Principles, politics, or spirituality, or XYZ factors, and I am a pro-labor, universal revolutionary centrist with my own theories that I'm calling for the implementation, that I firmly do believe that their implementation is the 21st century, of course, solutions, at least for the collective North American civilization, to propel the complex of North American civilization, or the North American civilizational complex of North America, into a just, moral, ethical, and dynamic superpower together of the 21st century. My call by the implementation and the creation of the public-private partnerships institutions, the public-private partnership institutions, to be integrated with all existing public and private institutions, organizations, corporations, and to implement my philosophies and theories. The Dancing Goddess Army with the Dragon Army, a public-private partnership with all public security institutions, the SPVM here in Montreal, with the RCMP, with the CIA, with the FBI, would all work together for the collective North American civilization, with the universities, with the citizens, with the artists, with the corporations, with the farmers, from all levels, and implement my philosophies and my protocols and my policies, such as encourage people to work out, train, exercise, sharing more with the well-pleased CEOs. I just read yesterday, and I heard in the radio yesterday and the day before that the average CEO salaries has went up so much, by so much. My brothers and sisters, I'm not selfless totally. I'm not totally selfless. I admit I want a little bit of piece of bacon. I'm grateful for this honey. I'm grateful for. I would love to have a massage therapy session every once in a while to get a good massage. Blah 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 blah. I'm not. I don't. In my universal spiritual teaching student, I'm learning every day. I try to stay in the middle, because in my spirituality teachings that we have different dimensions of self, a higher self, which I'm not always in the higher self, or sometimes in the middle, most of the time in the middle. Sometimes a foot in the lower self, imagining the lower aspects of self, and then trying to refine it, better it, so that we harm none. Principle harm none, so that we harm none. And my, of course, all my philosophies, whether of a psychological nature, of a physical nature, of a sexual nature, is two key words, and to deal with them, to take action by channeling and sublimating, sublimation and channeling into constructing activities such as working out, training and exercising, doing rock and roll, doing art, doing XYZ. So for my New Year's resolution, well, I'm working on my twerk game. Right? It's a resolution, but it's part of fitness. It's an art dance form. It's a dance that is also part of dancing, part of art, right? Whatever the case may be, to deal with certain things by action, channel and sublimate the aggression, right? The aggression, the violence, to channel and sublimate. I admit I have aggression in me. I admit it. I channel and sublimate it. I have been channeling and sublimated by working out, training, and exercising, by sport, by boxing now. Gonna channel it even more. Gonna train to fight Tyson Fury, Dragon versus Fury, Fury versus Dragon. Challenging him for my one and only boxing match anywhere between March 3rd. It is January 5th. Right, to maintain civilization, the privilege of civilization, which we all have, because this is the topic at hand. My thesis, the privilege of civilization. NBA players have it. CEOs of BlackRock, Mr. Fink, right? I'm saying BlackRock because they're the top international finance corporation, private corporation, which deals with the most AUMs, what's called in finance, assets under management, right? And Mr. Fink of BlackRock was who has more privilege in terms of economic, financial, commercial privileges, and then we all have the farm privilege, which I've began in the first and the second part, which of course that we all share because everybody has to eat. Mr. Fink has to eat, the most powerful in terms of economic, financial, commercial, because nobody's more powerful than my Pope, the Sun. And there's a joke in the spiritual matters when I've learned what different learns in education and spiritual matters with masters of spirituality and of spirituality, of which my spirituality sometimes is very physical, and it's also the body. My spiritual, psychological, philosophical take is that this body is a temple for pleasure and purpose. And how do we invest in the body? Working out, training, and exercising, taking a bath, doing pleasure and purpose. As I am calling basically fundamentally by my Trinity of theories and the two institutions that I'm calling the creation for us to move towards a post-COVID economic, social, philosophical, financial world for both pleasure and purpose to attain harmony, equilibrium, and balance between nature and civilization, and of course pleasure, enjoy by the joy of citizen integration theory, to have these institutions to encourage citizens to go see on the farming, how farming is done, how of course here the dams operate. One of the 63 dams maybe in Bay James, or the ones being built now have been built more recently on the river La Romaine. Hydro-Quebec built 7 more in the next 7 years. Encourage clean zero pollution energy to integrate, because we have since 1984 an alienation between citizens dispute that has been going, so that my theory, CIT citizen integration theory, will address the growing alienation that we have by education and by action, going on the field to see, for example, how farming is done here. I was thinking specifically of a potato farm, of which have of course read about, and I've contacted them for some business of pleasure and purpose, that it was founded in 1948, right after the Second World War, and how it expanded and it grew, and it passed from generation to generation, from the great grandfather or grandfather to the father and to the son, and so for 3-4 generations already, for more than 70 years, since 1948, more than 70 years. And I have the potatoes, half of them I already utilized to make for me and my sister for a New Year's Eve and New Year Day dinner, which we had the leftovers. So the last day of 2022 and the first day of 2023, we started by eating some of those potatoes, which were harvested and grown about 44 kilometers from my metropolis city, Hawkeye, Montreal. So to see how the farming, doesn't necessarily have to be an educational, or an in-depth educational about all the mechanisms and the intricacies of farming, right? But a general approach to see, and a general discussion with the farm owners, with the truckers, with the butchers, from the children, from the high school, from the early, from the first grade, from the second grade, to see everything that we have as a North American civilizational complex, as a complex of North American civilization, for my educational protocols, which have been given in the communication and direct communication and oral distribution in public. I'll put it on the public as part of a lot of things that I do. Is open source, my workout program, which I've created, which I'm proud to have created, and which requires no equipment, which is simple, effective, and efficient, which I'm advocating for the universities to adopt it, the high school to adopt it, even from the 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, maybe 5th or 6th grade, maybe 6th grade, starting to be able to encourage people to start to do my training, which requires no equipment, to see if they can do it within the rules, because it usually could take about an hour, right, to complete it. So the educational protocols and everything that as a philosopher, as an independent artist, as an activist, and of course everything that I do as a scholar of civilizations, who is not perfect, who does not play it self-righteous. I admit I am not totally selfless. As a universal spiritual teaching student, I am not totally selfless. I have some selfish. I try to stay in the middle balance. For example, I am grateful for my underground room, office, and temple, which I served as a gymnasium, but I also would want to have something bigger so I can have open house, because I cannot have an open house to work out, train, exercise, do boxing, dance, or create philosophies, or XYZ, distribute hugs and kisses and tickles from here. It's too small to have an open house. I need something bigger. So blah blah tralala. The privilege of civilization is my thesis. The privilege of civilization we all have. I have the privilege of civilization. Everybody, all citizens of Quebec, Canada, North America, United States, and beyond, different civilizations, we have this privilege of civilization. Within the privilege of civilization, there's interconnected, integrated privileges, plural, multiple, several privileges which we have at different points in time. But some have more than others in terms of economic, financial, commercial privileges. Others have different levels of privileges for XYZ motives or reasons, right? We have different privileges. The farming, for example, everybody has to eat, myself included. Although I did urban farming for in the past 7 years, I plotted the land, I did all the work at the micro level, at the small lots, right? And urban, what's called urban farming. Urban farming basically is smaller lots in the city, but of course, these principles are for the medium farms and for the big farms and super extra large farms, of course, which exist. The principles are pretty much the same, but of course the techniques some might differ, and of course the machines, the big machines, the machinery which we have built over the decades, and of course to farm and to feed all these millions of people, of which we are here in Quebec. We're close to 9 million in Quebec, and reaching 40 million in Canada, coast to coast 40 million, right? In the United States 358 million, Mexico more than 100 million. So we're more than 550 million, more than half a billion in North America, right? Which includes for me the Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and the islands as well, in the complex North American civilization. So we have the privilege of civilization as the collective North American civilization of North America. We have all of us, all citizens of Canada, United States, Mexico, we have the privilege of civilization. And how do we define a civilization? Like I stated earlier in the first lecture, in the second lecture, that has to be defined by some common set of denominators, such as we are abided by certain rules, regulations, which of course change, are not necessarily, some are more permanent than others are more temporary, right? Some fluctuate and change. Like when I say the complex North American civilization or the collective North American civilization is, of course, that it has arisen during the Second World War, and of course is still arising as I'm speaking, as I'm contributing as an independent scholar, as an independent philosopher, an independent activist, independent athlete, of course, as a student scholar of history, world civilization, as an independent geopolitical analyst and theorist. My theory, because geopolitics, that we constitute a complex civilization or a civilizational complex in North America with disparate elements such as, of course, the common denominators, which of course hold and transcend and have the economic, financial, commercial integration, and the infrastructure integration, the highways, which I've said some of it at different points. If I would have a car now and I would want to drive all the way to Mexico City, I can go from Montreal, Hawk Island, I start driving. I got to take a stop because it's going to be a long drive, but I can drive across the United States of America, where it's going to remind me from past lives, of course, as I was born in the USA twice in past lives. 156 years ago, served in the U.S. Army, 718 miles south of Hawk Island, Montreal. I served in the U.S. Army, and so of course I could cross with the car and go all the way to Mexico City. Can go all the way to Mexico City. I have to stop, maybe rest a day or a night, right? Because it's no, maybe it's 13, more than 13 for sure. It's a long drive, so I'm gonna have to. It's gonna take me about 2-3 days, right? I'm gonna have to pay at least, I would say, 3 days, right, to go properly so that it's more secure. I'm not gonna drive for 24 hours straight, right? And I got the privilege of civilization, the marvel, thank you, brains, kiss you, brains of thought, the scribe of all the universe, who knows all science, wisdom, and understanding, because I built these Wi-Fi telecommunications. Don't spy on me. I watch some PORN during the weekends, but I haven't watched in 3 weeks, if you really want to know. Blah, 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 blah. So if I go from Montreal to Mexico City, let's see how much is the drive. Directions. If I am to drive, so we have marvel of technology. So it says here that it's 4,000 about, more or less. I have different routes. You can take different routes. So I have 4,660 kilometers from Montreal to Mexico City. So I'm going to cross all the states, Massachusetts. I'm going to cross Pennsylvania, West Virginia, then I'm going to go through Kentucky, maybe Tennessee. Then I'm going to go to Louisiana, Texas. Then I'm going to go to the deep south a bit, then all the way to Texas. We're in the deep south. We're gonna go maybe to and then go to Mexico City. So it's about 44 hours and 32 minutes. So estimated calculation by the car from Montreal, Quebec, point A to point B, is gonna take me about 44 hours and 32 minutes. So let's say 3 days is 72 hours. So I will have to take a break, and sometimes I will have to, of course, pause and go to a motel and XYZ. I could probably drive all the way to where I was in a past life in Georgia, probably from Montreal to Georgia. Then in Georgia, I'm gonna stop, and of course, if I leave in the morning, maybe I could reach if I leave early in the morning, let's say 3 a.m. or whatever. I could reach Georgia by late evening. I could sleep in Georgia, maybe in Atlanta, and while I'll dream in Georgia, I'm gonna remember a past life born in the USA when I roamed 156 years ago down Georgia on the deep south and going all the way to Arkansas and Oklahoma and Tennessee, and of course XYZ factor. So yours truly, if that is the case, is going to take me about 44 hours and 32 minutes. So but this, if I would do that now, I would have a privilege, and that would be the privilege of the highways, right? The privilege of civilization contains different privileges, and it would have the highways and the people who build it. Since I did not contribute to the building of the highways, right, of the highways, which were built over decades, more than 70 years, so I have the privilege to utilize those public highways, the public highway, to take all the way from Montreal, all the way from Mexico City, and go on the highway and drive safely, in a more safer manner than I would be on a non-road, on a dirt road, on an earth road, on if it would not be paved. But there's a highway, there are highways, there are roads and highways, roads that are paved with the cars to be safer, with the cars, trucks, and it to be safer. Right, and now as I'm speaking, thank you, love you, kiss you, truckers throughout the collective North American civilization. Go truckers of North America, go truckers of North America, go. Dragon hugs and those who transport food. Now let's do a meditation on this privilege, such as this. Honey came, of course. I had to walk about 1.56 kilometers to get it, about half an hour to get it. I walked east about half an hour. I got it. It's local Quebec honey, so it was grown in Quebec. It's not imported honey. It's honey local from Quebec, Canada, right? So I bought it, but it comes from about 2 hours, because the city Wotton, WOTTON, where this honey is. Thank you, kiss you, offer you kisses, because with consent, of course, kiss the one who grew, the farmer, the apiculture, the beekeepers, right? The beekeeper who knows and knows, who grew this honey, who made this honey, right? That I'm enjoying my cup of coffee. Ended the year with honey and began the year with a little bit of sweet honey, which I was not able to afford in the past months. But now, due to the 7th of December, when a few $100s came to address the inflation, which I'm grateful, and I want to offer, because I don't like to owe people nothing. I want to do things, and I want to do things, and I've been through hell and back, and been depressed and suicidal. I've conquered depression. I've conquered depression. I've conquered depression. I want to, and I'm productive intellectually, productive in wisdom, and productive in kisses, because kisses, hugs, got, and some marches, and as an independent artist, independent athlete, independent activist, and world peace advocate, who nonetheless this 1st of January has received the social assistance, and I paid my rent with it. I paid my electricity bill, and I paid half of the internet for my anonymous sister, since it's only fair. And if I do make a million, I'm gonna give her half. I make a billion, I'm gonna give her half. Make a trillion, I'm gonna give her half. So right here, it is 11:57 a.m. Meditating, of course, on all the truckers transporting all those food between Canada, U.S., Mexico, back and forth. Not only food, but grains and clothing and other necessities. Necessities, maybe for some, coffee is more necessary than for other things. Tea, milk, of course, groceries, potatoes, bacon, cheese, of course, some other products, all the products, and not only that go by trucks, but also the railways, the railroads, the railways. So when we hop, a citizen, we hop, let's say, take a train, we have that privilege, transportation privilege, right? It's a privilege. If we haven't built, if you're a train conductor, he doesn't have that privilege, because he's part of that system of civilization that offers that service. He's part of that system of civilization that offers that service. He's part of that system of civilization that offers that service. Thank you, train conductors. Big dragon hugs. Go train conductors. Go train conductors. Go train railroads. Please athletes in the NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB give to all North American for the train conductors, trying to give them some free tickets. Go see the game, to go see the sports. I'm advocating, call it heart as an activist for that. The NFL players, for the truckers, the farmers first, because everybody got to eat. Even multi-millionaire athletes today, you're gonna eat. You're gonna eat. Athletes are gonna eat. Wall Street brokers are gonna eat. CEOs, top 100 CEOs of Canada now making more than ever with the salaries and the economic, financial, commercial inequality which we have to address. It is there, right? And they've been increasing in 3 years more than 30% now. Went from 11 million to now 14 million, right? Making average the top 100 CEOs of Canada or so. Average salaries of the top, I believe, 100 or 50. I believe it's top 100. Still gotta check information fact. They're making more 14 million average salary. So some make more, some make less, some make about around that 14 million a year. Average salary for the NBA, some make more than the average, some make less in statistics, right? 7.7. The NBA is the highest paid in terms of average salaries among all the four major, I'm going to say, brothers. I know I love football, I love sports. I'm going to say patriarchal. I'm going to say patriarchal because let's face it, our sisters in North America, their sports leagues, women's sports leagues of North America, they don't make even close economically, financially, commercially to what the NBA, National Basketball Association, makes, to what the NHL, National Hockey League makes, to what the NFL, National Football League, NHL, NBA makes, MLB makes. Not even close. That's why my dream, the Dancing Goddess Army, officially the International Integrated Dance League, is to, of course, to address some of those issues and to be for pleasure and purpose, as I'm a pro-labor universal revolutionary centrist with these ideas and these theories. It was not perfect. So we have the privilege of civilization. I have it now. I have not built any of those 63 dams of Hydro-Quebec Go, Hydro-Quebec Go, Hydro-Quebec. I have not built any. They were built since 1944 for so many people, so many tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, even millions, who perhaps more than a million in different capacity, shapes, or forms in 70 years since 1944 worked to build these 63 dams, by which now I'm heating my coffee, by which now in a combination or multiplicity or several, I am doing this video with clean, zero pollution, zero emission energy from Hydro-Quebec. So I have this electricity privilege. Yes, it's paid for, but it's still a privilege. Transportation is still a privilege, right? The food is still a privilege, right? In many ways. More for others. Some have different privileges within the privilege of civilization, which we all share, from the prime minister to the multi-millionaire CEOs to the multi-billionaires, Mr. Fink of Black Rock, right? To others, actors, Brad Pitt and others. Got love for Brad Pitt, but please increase in charity, food security, food security, food security. Give some shows, athletes, free shows for the farmers and the butchers and the bakers, those all involved in the production and distribution of food, right? All involved in the production and distribution of food, right? All involved in the production and distribution of food. All involved in the production and distribution of food. So give them something. NBA, National Basketball Association, NHL, National Hockey League, NFL, National Football League, MLB. Please, I call you this 2023 to give some tickets to all involved, all the farmers first, because everybody has to eat. So we all have, if we're not a farmer, if we're not involved in the production or distribution of food, we'll have food privileges, like this bread. Thank you, my anonymous sister, for giving me half of this bread. So this bread from the grain from the wheat, it was also baked in the baker, right? But of course, the farmer of the grain of the wheat, the first and foremost. And I'm gonna eat it to give nutrition to my body, to give me energy, so I can continue writing emails, to try to do business, as I'm open for business, to try to get my philosophical shows going, to do an events. Whether this is French focused, French, as I'm a Quebecer, of course, and I write poetry, philosophy, rock and roll in French, and I dance, and of course dancing is my universal. I feel the music, and we have these privileges. So the privileges of civilization are several. It can be economic, financial, commercial. It can be food. That food, most of us, more than 93% we have, because most of us do not farm. Has how many farms do you own? Do you own a big farm? How many pounds of potatoes do you grow? How many chickens do you have in the farm? How many pork? How much? And there's a definite number of answers. All the beans now, all the farms, all the produce, from the grains to the beans to the potatoes to the papayas to the honey to the bacon to the chicken. There's a definite number of all, each and every one of those items. Bananas. We don't grow really bananas in North America, but if we just focus on whatever we grow and produce of eating products, edible products, farm products, or consumer products, in other words, everywhere from Canada coast to coast, United States coast to coast, Mexico, all Mexico, North America. I'm gonna leave the islands for now, also, but we can put the islands also because they're part of North America in many ways. Cuba, Haiti, and of course Dominican Republic, which I include the islands. I include them Nassau, Bahamas. I include them in the and Jamaica. I include them in the sphere of the collective North American civilization. And I'm not gonna go because that's a lecture which I've lectured in the past, and we'll lecture in the coming days, weeks, and months. I had more on it, and I've went in the past. You can check in the Coffee with Dragon in anterior past events which I've made. So, but if we take, there's a definite number today, January 5th, as it's 12:04 p.m. Right? There's a definite number for all the products. Let's take the main ones. There's a definite amount of bread that exists now in Canada, United States, Mexico. Please, no food waste. Please try to no food waste. Please try to no food waste. Or if this is the case, try to compost. But there's a definite number of the amount of food that exists. All the bread, Canada, Mexico, US. There's in tons, maybe 93 tons, 156, 333, 718 thousands of tons, maybe. There's a number of the quantity. I'm not gonna quality for XYZ factors, quality XYZ. Some might not like this bread, some might love this bread, some might be okay with it, right? It smells lovely. It smells lovely, right? So if we do a meditation, there's a definite number of the quantity of all the bread that exists, Canada, US, Mexico, of all the beans that exist. Of course, we have black beans, white beans, red beans, or of course, multicolored beans. But beans is general, right? All the beans, all the honey, all the avocados. Avocados we don't grow in Canada, but we grow them in Mexico, right? But we import them. In North America, we have imported. We can do a meditation, and now it's going on trucks. Oh, so much food. Canada coast to coast, Mexico coast to coast, United States, all of North America. In the trucks, by the truckers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, truckers, and all the, of course, the railway conductors. Thank you, railway conductors. Smith. One of it is named Smith. Bless you, bless you. One of them is named Gonzalez. Bless you, love you, kiss you, Gonzalez. One of us named Butcher, nephew. One of us named Tremblay. Merci beaucoup, Tremblay, conducteur chef de Tremblay, or whatever surname is. Like Dragon became Dragon. By merit, talent, and when I said I'm gonna officially turn the A of my surname into an O, as the motto of the Dragon Army is, nobody is born a dragon, you become one. Officially, September 29th, 2022, last year, a few months ago, when I've successfully completed 300 of my own workout training program sessions. And if you can do it within the rules, you're eligible. You can say a potential dragon. Once you reach 300 sessions, you're officially Dragon 1, as I am Dragon 0. Gotta reach 300 though, sessions. Gotta reach 300. Simple, effective, and efficient workout program, which I'm advocating for, of course, implementation and encouragement for citizens to do, mass financing citizens to do, of course, all in throughout the schools, the universities, and throughout the schools, the universities, schools, universities, universities and schools, universities, schools, universities, and of course, public security forces, RCMP, CIS, SPVM, Montreal Police, Shortage Quebec, and FBI, CIA, and Mexico Police to try to adopt it, and citizens and universities, and of course citizens, firefighters of North American, firefighters, Firefighters try to do it, and we do it with citizens. So I spring, organize it to do it. I do it with joy, I do it with love. We can live stream it, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Mass finance people to work out, to train, and to exercise. Right? It always brings me joy. It is my medicine and therapy, working out, training, and exercise, and mode of worship in many ways. We can be secular, non-sectarian principle, as I am a pro-labor, universal, revolutionary, centrist. Not perfect, far from it. Small hands, tiny feet, tiny little androgynous, scar-clipped dick. We got that out of the way already several times, and can proceed to perhaps rock and roll and implement my Trinity of theories via the fourth dimension, LOV, and love is action. So sending some love to the truckers, to the butchers, to the farmers. Big hugs, big kisses. Thank you, Dragon. Independent athlete, independent artist, independent activist. Appreciate it. Appreciate this honey. Appreciate this rent being paid. This small office room and temple. I still appreciate it. I can work out, train, exercise, live stream, continue putting it online. Maybe get a like. Maybe get somebody to try to do my workout and say, hey, your workout, wow. it's, it's effective, man. It's simple, effective. Wow, and it's kind of funny. I can do it different every time than one can because it's the rules are not necessarily regimented. One has 93 minutes to do it. 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 hawks, 13 maximum rest per set, 3 minimum, anywhere between 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever the number between 13 and 3. Once you start the countdown, there's no pause. You got to keep on marching or jogging or running or walking fast pace. 31 seconds is required minimum of marching or jogging or running or walking fast pace in between each set. Once you get to 100 squats, 100 push-ups, 100 hawks, the Trinity push-ups, hawk squats, and you can scroll down, see hundreds of my workout videos, more than 300 now, of that own when I've created it back in October 2019, paradoxically to go hand in hand with the World War III scenario. So I'm advocating for people to do it coast to coast. We have the privilege of civilization. A gymnasium can be a privilege in many ways, although there has to be paid for it and XYZ, but it's still in many ways part of a privilege for fitness, right? To be able to do it. Everything that we do to be able to go, of course, see a movie. If we take the transport, we take public transit, right, to go to a cinema, we take the bus. And we also, the bus is on the road that somebody built. Thank you, Public Works of North America, who those going to do a meditation for those who are doing filling the potholes now throughout Montreal. The construction workers, big hugs, big dragon hugs, big dragon hugs to those filling the potholes now. Love you, kiss a big dragon hug. They're filling the potholes to be safer, so the car doesn't bump, right? To be better, or the pedestrian, right? To those working on the public works, right? Have that privilege. If we haven't worked to build a road, we have that privilege, which is the transportation privilege. One of the privileges which we have under the privilege of civilization, which we all have, the privilege of civilization, because the civilization has common rules, denomination sets to have a safe and have a life and have, of course, freedom, which is not easy, a double-edged sword. I don't claim to be able to lift the sword of freedom because very few of us, let's be honest, are not to fight for the cause of freedom. I admit, by my solo, I'm not me. Dragon, no, I got issues, I got vices. Me to dragon, limdick, to live the sword of freedom. It's a double edge. It's hard, man. It's for freedom, man. It's double edge. It's dangerous, man. Dangerous rock and roll ICBM rockets. Grab my nutslang, man. Very few of us are. Very few. And to refine, to admit certain things, it's hard. To admit, especially to refine and to harm none, to be able to harm none, say harm none other citizen, right? To be the best. To admit that at some things, I admit at some things I'm mediocre. At some things I'm average. At some things I'm so-so. At some things I'm effing useless even. The dams, 63 dams, they were built. It's electricity, it's transport, it's railroads. How many farms did you build, man? how how many tons of potatoes did you harvest to feed? How many breads, wheat? Most of us have that privilege of food. Privilege that the farmers work, that the truckers transported. Transportation, food. Have the privileges. Artists who are multi-millionaires. I was watching a movie, Brad Pitt calling you to an hour for world peace. Make for paying, I don't know, whatever, a million. Gonna give some sponsor to food security for 1 hour. Me and Brad Pitt for world peace. We're gonna kiss, right? Because kisses God, right? To do freedom is something very new, very. It's also dangerous. There's a danger to freedom, right? There's a danger to freedom. I have it tattooed here. Well, freedom is a double-edged sword. If I cannot lift the sword of freedom by my soul or by myself, I admit I need help, need support. And freedom to be positive freedom with some joy, with some pleasure, some purpose to attain harmony between civilization and nature, to channel and sublimate the aggression. Because first and foremost, in all cases, your story Dragon Zero is defense, defense, defense. I fight my own battles. If somebody wants to put on gloves with me, if I've offended, blah blah. Dragon Zero fights his own battles. We can battle, dance, freestyle battle rap. Gonna rap for the farmers, butchers, bakers. Don't doubt a doubt, right? We got the farm, and I fight my own battles. If anybody, whatever, wants to put on gloves with me and fight my own battles, fight my own. So, want to challenge me anywhere, anytime, any place, we can put on the gloves. And Dragon Zero, aka Limb Dick, is willing to go one on one with anybody, any place. You're 7'7" or XYZ if you want, or we can just battle dance or philosophize or XYZ. I'm far from perfect. And very few of us are worthy or fighting the cause of freedom. Very few. Myself, I admit I'm not. I try, but lift the sword of freedom by myself. Nah, I'm not able to lift the sword of freedom by myself. Are you? Freedom is a new thing. It's a dangerous thing. Even it's not that easy, ain't it? To admit, like, if I would be to admit something which I did in the past and admit myself, in the private life, I admit I like myself some BDSM switch, BDSM switch. No need to spam me, RCMP, CIS, CIA, Stasi, Pegasus. I got lusts, got some vices, and some rock and roll. I'm androgynous pansexual, Money Long God got some ideas for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. So I'm calling on my astrological brother Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and others, public-private partnership, all institutions and organizations, private and public corporations of North America, artists, and all willingly loving to support my theory, which with all the perfection, the flaws, and that I do have, I believe that the DRT, death row fusion theory, is best at this time for the implementation of the DRT, the death row fusion theory. The DRT, take all private and public debt and create what I call the UE. Stands for Universal Exchange Unit, portfolio by biometrics. The hand, the voice, and the eye are unique biometric identifiers. And to create the Universal Exchange Unit, peg down what the US dollar is, since today is the United States dollar in 2023 is still the international finance currency of choice, is still the global commerce currency of choice, and is still the worldwide currency for trade, for world trade, international finance, and global commerce, the United States dollar still. So take all private and public debt, my debt, $10,000 to the RBC, your debt, and all that, and create across the complex North American civilization something similar to the euro, and of course to top the plan for North America and my Trinity theories, and a public-private partnership, because everything that I'm calling for is a public-private partnership to secure and ensure freedom here in North America, and for the rebirth of the collective complex of North American civilization, the North American civilizational complex, with some joy, with some humor, with some healing, regeneration, and rebirth, so that we North Americans become a united for world peace, but have a strength of North America and a rebirth, and my theories implemented, such as the DRT. First, the death refusion theory. DRT stands for death refusion theory, and of course to create the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit, And of course, if I appear on a live stream on Facebook, Instagram, on radio, television, I'm going to express gratitude and thank you to, of course, the workers of the collective North American civilization, the farmers, the butchers, the bakers, the railway conductors. Thank you, big dragon hugs to all those working in public security, firefighters, nurses, doctors, all those involved in sanitation and all those in fitness. Of course, encourage all to work out, train, exercise, which has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. And of course, please increase in hygiene in public. Wash your hands with soap and water, or a little bit of a hand sanitizer like this. I still have a little bit of it. I'm grateful my sister gave me a cool gift, a full new bottle like this, which is probably gonna last me for a month. Because when I step outside of my private underground room, Austin Temple, the Dragon's Lair, if I step outside, I'm no longer just private citizen dragon. I'm also public citizen dragon with public responsibilities, duties, and obligations, such as public hygiene. I got the responsibility for public hygiene. That is my responsibility as a citizen when I step outside in the public domain. I put a lot of my things in the public sphere. Right? But when we step outside in the public, I am no longer just private citizen, as I could be here, turn everything off, start dancing naked on Madonna's music, Tekashi 6ix9ine music, or Celine Dion music, or techno, whatever other type of music, if I want so choose. My price for a naked dance is 1 million. I don't have an OnlyFans, but for 1 million, I'm gonna give her half of my sister dance naked for an hour. Give half to my sister, pay my debt, and continue give some for food security, because that's an important for me, primordial. Give something for food security. And of course, not only for food security, and then to finance my world peace dream, which manifests as the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, as the dragon kingdom as the dancing goddess empire, and the dragon kingdom is one. As I'm here 12:20 p.m. in the EST, it is the first week of January, the first week of 2023. It is January 5th. And of course, I'm grateful I'm going to have lunch, which is going to give me some energy to write emails for further collaboration, partnership, and my ideas to have events of a philosophical, artistic, loving, and some comedy and humor, which I do, of course, use sometimes, and I do laugh sometimes at myself. So we have the privilege of civilization, all of us, myself, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, President Biden, CEO of BlackRock, Mr. Fink, CEO of BlackRock, Mr. Fink, Larry Fink, and others have their economic, financial, commercial privileges. But when they step, all of their CEOs, they also have the privilege of eating. Because the CEO, maybe he's never farmed. Maybe the CEO, he's making 14 million a year, 13.4 million a year he made last year, 2022. Please give 10%. 10% of that would be 1.3 million, right? Maybe he never farmed in his life, the CEO. But that CEO or that athlete or that artist or that actor, whatever it is, whoever is your favorite actor, making 44 million for a movie, or whatever the case may be, 11 million for a movie, or 7-year, $333 million contract, or a boxer making a few hundred million for a boxing match, or whatever the case may be, that they have also the farming privilege. Maybe never farmed, never. I have farmed in urban farming, so I could say I have experience farming, because I do several times in urban farming. I did everything that a farmer does, but at the small micro level. So I have a little bit of experience with this, with that, with everything. What on my new CV curriculum vitae is I put more work than all the leaders of the free world combined during COVID. I put in more work than all the leaders of the free world combined during COVID, marching and philosophizing as I am now presenting my thesis. And this, beginning the January with this thesis and the new challenge to Tyson Fury to fight me in a boxing match in March. My first one and only boxing match will be a one-time deal versus the undefeated, who's considered one of the best, if not one of the best Tyson Fury. So Dragon versus Fury, gonna train hard. Gonna see me train hard in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead. Well, not that many months until March, right? January 5th already. So about 2 months left, right? About 66 days, mid-March. The privilege of civilization, we all have it. whoever it is, we have all of us, all citizens, whether you're on social assistance, on welfare, whether you're XYZ, a multi-millionaire, or somewhere in between, middle class, lower class, whatever the class is, upper class, upper class, Westmount, that way living in Westmount in a mansion, or of course, if you're late on the rent. I'm not. I always paid my rent and paid for January. My rent is paid in full. My electricity bill is paid in full, and so I am here, and I am here. I am here. Paid my rent in full, paid my electricity in full, and of course paid my electricity and paid my rent in full. Fully paid my rent and fully paid my electricity, and I am of course open for business. Yours truly. So right from this underground room, office, and temple, I am discussing the privilege of civilization, which we all have at different level, interconnected more or less, with the privileges of civilization. One of the privileges of civilization is the food that most of us have. Other one can be transport, right? If we haven't built or we haven't contributed to building the highways and we own a car, we have that transportation privilege, which is a privilege of civilization, because infrastructure is a privilege of civilization. The roads, the highways, the roads, the pavement, right? People, citizens, our fellow citizens build it with cement, with blood, sweat, and tears for us to go driving on the roads. It's a privilege of civilization. In the next 7 years for the collective North American civilization, I say go dragon go so that we rebuild and build the infrastructure of North America. I can give hugs, I can give which I need. I gotta we need a good neighbor, blah blah blah, blah. And we have the privilege of the building of the railways, all who contributed to build those railways and to maintain the railways. The other day I was meditating, I saw, was doing the winter, right? We have winter, so there's this machine, not like a machine car, was passing by, so I'm assuming that was putting some liquid or getting the ice or the snow from in between the railroad, right? The railways. Okay, so I was meditating how with brains somebody build this machine and with muscle and how it operates, So I was doing that meditation for the maintenance of the railways and all those involved in the maintenance of the railways and the railroads, and of course now filling potholes across North America. Big hugs. So now many people of us across coast to coast Canada have that privilege, going on the highway, whether the truckers who are involved in us having the privilege of the transportation of the food, right, to of course the electricity, which I'm utilizing now to philosophize, propose, and contribute to doing my thesis as the people's doctor, an independent student scholar, learning every day, right? And now we can have also this added privilege of the internet. In many ways, this is the last sort of privilege. In many ways, public-private partnership. In many ways, it is the internet, an ongoing dialogue of what is the internet is a set of interconnected servers and computers and software, and of course with 3G, 4G, 5G, with of course all the smartphones which operate, which we at many points have that privilege of communication as well. It's a privilege of civilization, right? To communicate. I can take the phone, I'm doing live streaming on the phone, on a smartphone, and I'm putting it on a laptop, right, for my YouTube. So I connect to the Wi-Fi. How does it work? I know a little bit about it, XYZ, what it's called, the evil twin, the Wi-Fi evil twin, that way, the radio, that way, those vans, what you're up to. So all the electricity to provide us electricity for heating during the winter, for warming our food, warming our coffee. I have my coffee. Matter of fact, it's time to get a refill and rock and roll. Wrap it up in a bit. I'll get a refill. Have a refill of coffee. And it goes for some more coffee. Grateful, thankful for this cup of coffee. Gonna keep some left for a third and final cup for later with my lunch. And I'm gonna sweeten it up because I began the year, I've ended the year with this privilege to be able to put some honey in my cup of coffee. To be able to put some honey in my cup of coffee. Was able to put some honey in my cup of coffee. I must be able to put some honey in my cup of coffee. Well, It's a bit too much, but I'm gonna sweeten it. And yes, I want anyway. So you're gonna see me again for the third time. Dragon Zero, independent philosopher, independent artist, independent psychological analyst and theorist, independent geopolitical analyst and theorist, independent student scholar, independent activist, and universal spiritual teaching student, and the world's greatest living dancing millennial rainbow poet. Lick this jar on the side. So if you want to take some dirt, and I do get dirty but get back clean, so no need journalists to dig up. You can just look up on this 2023 and give you my CV, and you can check online that I put in more work intellectually, of course, in the sophisticated, cosmopolitan, geopolitical, intellectual, philosophical, artistic work, and physical work with my workouts than all the leaders of NATO member countries combined during COVID. Have put in more intellectual, physical, artistic, poetic, philosophical, spiritual work than all the leaders of NATO member countries combined during COVID. It was truly Dragon Zero since COVID, about mid-February 2020 until now. It's going to be soon 3 years in mid-COVID when I had COVID, and I said I died of COVID. I'm triple vaccinated, and I'm careful about hygiene. And of course, I am being reborn Adrian Hanna, dragon, androgynous, pansexual, founder of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. I, of course, want new CVs that have put in more intellectual, spiritual, philosophical, artistic, poetic, art, and of course, physical work than all the leaders of NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization member countries combined during COVID. Grateful for this honey, gonna stir a bit. So the privilege of civilization we all have. I have to establish that. We all have the privilege of civilization. The housing is another privilege, right? If we haven't built the house or the apartment complex just next to me that way is a big thing, is about 25 stories, maybe 31 stories. I have a big residential building where maybe even a few hundreds, maybe close to more than a few thousand, maybe even 2-3 thousand live inside, with hundreds of apartments, right? It's huge residential complex right next to me. I haven't counted the stories. Next time I gotta count how many stories high it is. It's almost like a skyscraper. Big residential building. So in many ways also the habitation, the housing, food and transport, which of course by the Dragon Army, the public-private partnership, the PPP of the Dragon Army that I'm calling the creation for the 21st century to be for service and security based on my philosophies, based on my theories, and based on my LOV. I'm calling all to support the creation thereof. And of course, right here, we also have the housing privilege. I'm in this underground room, office, and temple. In an office, in a room, in a temple, underground, literally in Hawk Island, Montreal. But we have this is in many ways a privilege, right? Of room, office, and temple. Office, room, and temple. In many ways, it is a privilege that we have, and many of us have throughout the east, west, north, south. So many buildings that we have that are, of course, we have the privilege of housing, to have a roof over the heads, to have a housing privilege. Some of us have bigger mansions, right? But all interconnected. So housing, food, transport are three main pillars of civilization, which going from North American to secure, and then offer the fourth dimension, services, and many services are part of the privileges of civilization. I'm getting to a more fine look. Services, whatever services can be. It can be a special medication, special therapy, massage therapy session, healthcare, right? To get physiotherapy, to go to a spa, to go to a spa, to go to a spa, right? To go to a massage therapy session, a massage therapy session, which I've been craving during COVID, cannot afford it, but I'm still grateful I can substitute by taking a bath. So I have a little bit of a privilege that I can utilize that machine that heats the water, the boiler, which was built with brains and muscle, as civilization requires, still will require, for the maintenance and the upgrading thereof. And by for me, upgrading civilization means that we gonna attain harmony between civilization and nature. And we're gonna attain harmony between civilization and nature. That's upgrading civilization. For me, it's maintaining harmony, or attaining harmony, balance, equilibrium between civilization and nature, and having some joy and some rebirth and some healing and some joy, some pleasure and purpose. Right, civilization. Privilege entertainment is another big privilege. Part of the privileges, the multiple interconnected, integrated privileges that we have at different levels, whether economic, financial, social, or otherwise political, or otherwise economic, financial, money, social privileges. And we all have the privilege of civilization to have food, to have transport, roads, to have some security at different degrees, right? The services, thank you firefighters of North America, thank you firefighters of North America, thank you firefighters of North America. And the bakers, the butchers, the food, the services, entertainment can be a service. It's part of a privilege, part of the one privilege of the privileges of civilization, which can be food security. Food security, everybody has to eat, so that is first. That is why I put the top. If we are to do a hierarchical of privileges, under one privilege, which is the privilege of civilization, which we all have, and then the privilege of civilization, multiple, it is food security, the food, because everybody gotta eat, everybody has to eat. A big city metropolis, 2.5 million people. In Montreal attained 1 million people in 1930. Montreal, 1931. In the 30s, Montreal had already 1 million people population on the island proper because it's surrounded by a big river. Then we have the sewers system, right? The sanitation system, which again the sewers were built over decades and decades and decades, maybe even more than 156 years, and then upgraded and built and changed all the sewers, all the canals connecting with the rivers, and the water, to have water in our homes. That's another privilege of civilization, which was built over decades and decades and decades with brains and with muscle. So brains and muscle is required for the maintenance of civilization, and will be required for us to upgrade creatively by attaining harmony between civilization and nature. And we have here in Quebec, and say go Hydro Quebec, go Hydro Quebec, we can be proud, we can be mindful and meditate on that fact that here the electricity which we utilize, and as Quebecers we also give to six states, and in the next years I heard that about 1/3, 30% of New York with the island of Manhattan is gonna have electricity coming from Hydro Quebec, which is clean, zero pollution, zero emission energy. Wow, does not pollute. Wow. Built with brains and muscle, 63 dams of Hydro Quebec in Bay James, and all those poles of electricity which were laid coast to coast. How many poles? In the millions. That are in steel, cement. Some of it, of course, need upgrading, need changing because they're, of course, made of wood, or if made of wood, right? Some of it are cement. Some of them are huge, big, right? Those big ones for the city that are made of metal, steel, and cement, and big power lines, the big power lines. So we have that privilege of the electricity, which is part of the privilege of civilization, to be able to go online, to be able to watch a movie, to be able to work from home, to do everything that we do right now somewhere in this schools. Some of them are opening in gymnasium, to go to the grocery store, go to the shop, right? We utilize to go watch the news, watch an entertainment, to clean, to vacuum, right? Utilizing energy, to cook. Everybody has to eat, to cook. This is a privilege of civilization. Another one of the privileges of civilization, where this civilization arisen, as I've said in part 2 and part 1, that I do pinpoint it that civilization kind of began at around the same time, more or less, in ancient Egypt, ancient China, ancient India, ancient Sumeria, right? More or less. Some say this civilization was first, this civilization was first. I'm open to saying that it seems that they have arisen with the first city-states, first city-state kingdom, first city-state empires, around more or less at the same time, right? Organized with a set of rules and laws and compromises on regulations and principles and laws, by which we govern the conduct of our fellow human beings by XYZ activities. And my principle is, of course, to try to harm none and to, to do and by citizen integration theory, which I believe is a great theory to be implemented to fight alienation, which has grown in the past decades since 1984. Which I pinpoint the re-election of Ronald Reagan as being the beginning of the world becoming a globalized, technocratic, financialized corporate system. And my theories address that, the public-private partnership, that the 21st century, at least for the complex of North American civilization, for the North American civilizational complex, should be on public-private partnership. My call and my things is all as a public and a private partnership of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, which is, of course, the my dream for world peace. But first, of course, as a North American, we say we got coast to coast. That way is the east, that's the Atlantic, and that way is the west, that is the Pacific. And of course, from the east to the west, from the Pacific to the Atlantic, that of course we have one border, two oceans, as I'm calling for North America to support yours truly, Adrian Hana Dragons vision and the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom locally and even of course internationally, globally, worldwide. But I am in Hawk Island, Montreal, on this island, and of course that is my call. So we have all of us citizens, whether of course multi-millionaire artists or whatever, CEOs, or of course workers on the farmers, or of course those filling the potholes now, working in the infrastructure of the roads, of the highways, that we all have the privilege of civilization. And within the privilege of civilization, we have an interconnected privileges of civilization. More or less, at different points, we interact with those privileges, whether we take a train now. Take a train for those railroads. The railroads which was built over the decades by tens of thousands of workers. So I have a privilege and you have a privilege, and we all have, under the umbrella term, or we all have the privilege of civilization. The privilege of civilization, which is my thesis. And within the privilege of civilization, we have privileges, plural, multiple dimensions, some of us more than others at different points in time, whether economic, financial, or commercial. Some of us, of course, such as, of course, financiers and brokers and CEOs, top 100 CEOs of Canada, they have more financial, economic, commercial privilege, right? But they perhaps never also farm. So when they eat, as everybody has to eat, whether you're a multi-millionaire athlete in the NBA who averages the most 7.7 million average salaries per NBA player of the National Basketball Association, and the MLB, Major League Baseball, multi-millionaire artist. Yesterday I was watching a movie, and the actor, of course, got several millions of dollars to play in a movie. He has an economic financial privilege. But when that athlete or artist or CEO of a corporation or multi-millionaire financier eats, he also has the privileges of the farming, because most of us do not own farms. We are depending, so there's interconnected disciplinary. Please note that I do not respond when live stream I see people, or if you of course writing and do XYZ. I encourage people to show love or move along. Show love or move along is my social media principle. Show love or move along. And positive criticism with alternative solutions. Positive criticism is welcome with alternative solutions, but do not respond directly while I'm, of course, in the midst of delivering an oratory or communication or discussing, as I am discussing my thesis now, the privilege of civilization. So if you want to pledge your allegiance, please do so. Kisses God, from the goddess. But know that, of course, I do see and I'm aware of certain comments, but if not, my official volunteer representative Rachel Ayelwork will respond direct if I'm not responding directly. My official volunteer representative, as I'm looking for volunteers, blah 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 blah. My official volunteer representative Rachel Ayelwork will direct, instruct, and respond for yours to do XYZ, blah 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 blah. So we all have the privilege of civilization, which contains privileges of civilization. So the privilege of civilization, which we all have, is one privilege, which is civilization. And within that privilege of civilization, we have multiple privileges which we utilize or take advantage of, or we function by it in different ways. So, for example, it will be public transport, taking the bus, taking the subway, taking the airplane, taking the train. I remember when my anonymous sister went a few years ago, the best trip I ever had, at least in this life. And like I said, I don't remember much about childhood, adolescence, early adulthood. I remember more the past 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years and about my life and experiences that I've written over pages and books and journals that I've written with my philosophies, theories, and on USB keys and blah, 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 blah. And of course, it is the theories which now I present and I've given open source for all to share and to contribute to open source and contribute as I have been live streaming an open source working out training and exercising open source in the past days, weeks and months, and in the past years, especially during COVID. And I say that I've died during COVID personally. There's nothing that I do want to go back to pre-COVID, and I'm of course a little bit disappointed, quite upset, and maybe perhaps subconsciously angered or triggered that I've seen a lot of the world and I haven't seen a lot of the multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires in the NFL, National Football League, because I love sports. You know, I love sports. And of course, NBA, National Basketball Association, NHL, and multi-millionaire athletes and artists. I haven't heard. I was hoping that in 2022, with the inflation growing, I was say yes, the multi-millionaires, multi-billionaire CEOs, they're gonna donate for food security in mass because they're privileged financially. And I haven't seen something like in mass the artists and actors and who make 20 44 million a movie, make 3 movies, make 156 million a year, and boxers who are multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires because say hey, tough, one of the toughest economic, financial, commercial times in more than 44 years, with inflation being the highest since the late 70s, early 80s, and grocery food increasing and prices increasing, and of course throughout North America. I was hoping during the holidays that at least for the children, people would mass finance toys, gifts, and bags for the children. At least like a mass. I say, hey, okay, we're gonna give half price to corporations before the holiday season, before Christmas, and I haven't seen that, so I'm a bit kind of disappointed. I'm not perfect. I don't play the self-righteous. I got some lusts, got some vices. I want to afford a bacon, good meal, and eat good, and a good wine, which local wine actually, which I wanted to afford, but it's a bit too expensive, $26 and something. And I've made the calculation. I said for that $26 local wine from Quebec, I can buy 3 bottles, one from France, one from Italy, and one from Spain. So that will, because it was 8.35, so it was the same price to get 3 bottles instead of one. So I got 2 bottles because I we got that of course check, which I'm grateful for, from on the 7th of December, and of course which I've gotten the check, and I was able to get a bottle of wine for me and my sister for the holiday. So not being perfect and not being totally selfless. I was hoping, and I'm hoping still, that via my Trinity of theories and their implementation and the consequent creation and establishment of the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions of the International Citizen Integrated Social Security and Service Force, aka the Dragon Army, to be for security and service. Secure food, housing, and transport. Secure the 3 essential elements of civilization: food, housing, and transport, which are privileges. I've just calculated before. I said for Montreal, if I own a car, I don't own a car. I have steel toe boots and the new boots, which my anonymous sister, whom if I make a me, I'm gonna give her half, gifted yours truly from secondhand, but which are great, super, and I'm wearing for the first time. 2022 started wearing my favorite laces, which my are rainbow laces, which I'm auctioning for $1 million each. So if you want to contribute that way, blah blah, blah blah blah, we're gonna go for. I'm wearing rainbow laces and rainbow laces, starting 2023, and I live carpe diem every day. Like I said, I fight my own battles. I don't turn the other cheek, and may I be avenged 11-fold. May I be avenged 11-fold. May I be avenged 11-fold to life. But I'm hoping for world peace. I fight my own battles. If anybody, general or XYZ president or prime minister anywhere has anything against Dragon Zero, aka Lim Dick Rainbow Dragon, who's not perfect, far from it, we can put on the gloves and we can go in a rink, no problem, or we can dance battle or or we can philosophize on XYZ factors. So calling for the implementation of my training theories and the privilege of civilization, which we have. So now if I would be to take the car, I would drive all the way from Montreal, from Hawk Island, Canada. I would drive all the way to Mexico City, but it's going to take me 44 hours and 32 minutes, according to the calculation on the internet. So according to the calculation, if I lay from point A, Montreal, Hawk Island in Canada, Quebec, to point B, Mexico City in Mexico, the capital of Mexico, big metropolis as well, millions of people, it's 44 hours and 32 minutes, but keep in mind that would be continuous driving, which I do not recommend, do not recommend, do not recommend. I would have to stop at least 3 times. So 2 nights, maybe I would stop, right, for 3 days, 4 days, 3 to 4 days drive. Because 44 hours is almost 2 days, right? 48 hours is 2 full days. So I have to sleep at least 2 nights somewhere in the USA, right? If I drive. But nonetheless, I would have that privilege. I would have the car to be able to take the roads which were built, the highways from all the way from Canada to Mexico City, the highways and the roads, the pavement, and the highways which exist, which were built over more than 70 years. So I have that transport privilege. That's a privilege of civilization, to be able to go with the car. So that is one privilege which we have with civilization. And that privilege of civilization is interconnected with other privileges of civilization, such as eating, entertainment as well, right? I can go to see a movie tonight, can go to take the train. Take the train is another privilege of civilization, right? How many trains are going across Montreal now, east, west, and going to Saint Jerome, going to Saint Eustache, right? They're going, we have the train connection. We can go outside of Montreal, on the North Shore, Laval, or Rive Sud, South Shore, Saint Hubert, Saint Lambert, right? I can take the train and go to Saint Lambert. I can cross the river, right? Because it goes, crosses the river, right? You can cross, and we have an underground tunnel to the La Fontaine. It's another privilege, right? The railroads, the bridges, right? So we have the privilege of civilization, one privilege which we all have, whether you're on welfare, social assistance, whether you're a multi-millionaire. The privilege of civilization we all have, because the multi-billionaires, they have the economic, financial, commercial privilege more than the majority of us. They have that also responsibility to also do more, which I was hoping. And I personally do not want to go back anything to pre-COVID myself personally. And of course, by the way, now that I mentioned that we can go from Montreal to Mexico, I see that there's 3 possible routes. I know it seems that it's about 44 hours all. The one is 44 hours and 7 minutes. The other one is 44 hours and 50 minutes, and another one is 44 hours and 35 minutes. So it seems that it's 40 around around more than 44 hours. So that's the average: 44 hours, 44 hours, 44 hours to go. But it would have to stop, of course. That is continuous driving, which the kilometers are 4,660 kilometers from Montreal, Canada to Mexico City. It's 4,660 kilometers in different routes, maybe a little bit more or less kilometers in terms of the mileage, which is for the drive. But we have that privilege. We also have another privilege, which is, of course, just the water systems, right? To have water in our homes, or built over decades, the sewers, the canals, all the systems which circulate underneath, underground from the sewers. We have the sanitation, another privilege of civilization, right? We have the system of drainage. We have the system of drainage, the drainage system, built with brains and muscle, as civilization has and will require brains and muscle for the maintenance and the continued building and hopefully upgrading civilization. For me, upgrading civilization, not just the collective North American civilization or the complex of North American civilization, but human civilization. To upgrade it, it will be for us to move towards world peace and to finance the channeling and sublimation of aggression, the sublimation and the channeling of aggression by working out, by training, and by exercising. Right? By working out, by training, and by exercising. By working out, by training, and by exercising. That is the channeling and the sublimation of aggression, which we have, I admit I do have. I channel and sublimate and have been channeling and sublimating by working out, training, and exercising, or jogging, running, and XYZ. And refining the natures of ourselves to be concordant, to try to be balanced in harmony, while admitting that at some things, like I do admit myself, at some things I am mediocre, at some things I am average, at some things I am so-so. While being so-so, average, and mediocre at some things, I admit that at some things I'm also great, super, and excellent, such as geopolitical analysis. And I believe in 2023, this thesis, which I present, has no rival in terms of geopolitical analysis, and political and sociology has maybe a few which can contrast or compare, but I believe this thesis, which is this third video of this session, which I'm going to do more in a few days, weeks, and months, complemented overall, that this thesis called the Privilege of Civilization, which I'm discussing in an oral communicative form now. And I do believe that the implementation of my trinity of theories via the fourth dimension, that trinity of the CIT citizen integration theory, death fusion theory, and democratic fusion theory, via LLV, love is action, to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions of the International Citizen Integrated Social Security and Service Force, aka the Dragon Army, to be for service and security, secure food, housing, and transport, and be integrated with all existing public and private institutions and organizations such as the security, public security forces, armed forces for NORAD, North America and beyond NATO member countries, and extend for world peace all other allies willingly loving who will to join the rebirth of the collective North American civilization, of the complex North American civilization, because I am, of course, a Quebecer Canadian North American and world peace citizen of this world, and for the world peace and a part of the LGBTQ community and open for 7 years now, and the creation of the two complementary cooperative institutions that I'm calling for the creation. And the privilege of civilization, I believe this thesis, this analysis, this theory, this geopolitical, social, financial theory called the privilege of civilization, how we have within the privilege of civilization, there's interconnected multiple privileges. At different points in time, we take service of them, such as if we were to go driving now, we would have that transport system. If we go on the highway, that's one of the privileges of civilization. If we go to a restaurant, even the fast food, we can criticize the way, but if we go have a burger, that's part of a privilege of civilization, and part of that food being able to have that. We have to pay, sure, there's money. What is money? Money is a means of exchange to buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. I believe for at least the complex of North America, my theory, debt fusion theory, and the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit, is best to create it in parallel with what the US dollar is. The UE stands for Universal Exchange Unit, and the DRT, even outside of the realm of the complex of North American civilization, NATO member countries in the world, with the Bank of International Settlements, World Bank, the IMF, my theory, DRT, debt fusion theory, can save the world in many ways. I need your help. We need to get all citizens, all public and private institutions and corporations and organizations, the DRT, the debt fusion theory, to be implemented via the fourth dimension. And that fourth dimension is love. Because if hopefully somebody's gonna make love today with consent, obviously with consent. I encourage all to hug like you never hugged before. That's the main message on workout, train, and exercise. Workout, train, and exercise. Workout, train, and exercise. Right. Working out, training, and exercising has been, is, and will continue to be my medicine and therapy of choice, as I recommend it, and I have been, am, and will call for the mass financing thereof. 12:56 p.m. Carpe diem it today. I'm gonna go for lunch. I'm grateful for this. My anonymous sister who gave me half of this bread, and if I make a me, I'm gonna give her half. I make a B, I'm gonna give her half. If I make a tree, I'm gonna give her half. And if I do put this bread, I'm gonna eat it simple, some ham and some mayonnaise. And I'm gonna write some emails. So I'm gonna go a little bit about the thesis, which is called the privilege of civilization, and that it has multiplicity of privileges. And of course, civilization can be defined as having a set of common denominators which establish set of rules, laws, norms, and regulations by which we abide by. It can also include well-developed civilizations such as the culture or language, or of course some spirituality or religion, or
belief in the common myths or legends or XYZ factors, and it's defined mostly by, of course, a group. We're expanding, of course, as we are more, millions of people in the collective North American civilization, which is my original theory again, based on with this original thesis that called the Privilege of Civilization, which, of course, I've written over pages and part of my ongoing scholarly education and continuing education as I'm learning every day. And not perfect, far from it. I said I'm in the open about my sexuality, my being mediocrities, my being so-so at certain things and average at others, while being great, super, and excellent at some other things, such as geopolitical analysis, politics, philosophy, and XYZ factors. I'm grateful for this cup of coffee. So the privilege of civilization we all have. Some have more economic, some have more social, some have more of another dimension, of another nature at different points in time. But sometimes we have an in common, which is one privilege of civilization that we live in. Civilization. And Quebecers, Canadians, my brothers and sisters in the USA and Mexico, we live together in the complex of North American civilization, the North American civilizational complex. And of course, I'm a philosopher here from North America, Quebec, Canada. And I believe in my Trinity of theories, and we have these privileges. I have this privilege now to drink this cup of coffee. I have the privileges of the electricity because I haven't built the dams, right? 63 dams. I have privilege of the electricity and the privilege of the technology, which is another, to connect, communicate, do business, and create art, put on the public forum, in the public sphere, which is the internet can be in many ways is a public and a private partnership, is an ongoing dialogue and transformation. I'm utilizing an application, Facebook, which I believe can be, and my theories are for the greater good. While I also want to afford a massage therapy session from time to time, a little bit of bacon, a little bit of cheese, some wine. Yes, I admit it. I admit it. But I am for the greater good, and I do believe in my theories to be for the greater good and for the rebirth of the, not just myself, but of the collective North American civilization and humanity, for world peace, to transcend certain elements of our past, which are sometimes hard. Change can be hard, and myself, I've been to blood, sweat, and tears, and nothing that I want to go back to pre-COVID. As I've said, I've died during COVID. I had COVID in the January 2020 until about mid-February or so. And I had it 3 times actually. I had it in 2020, was the hardest. It was like pestilence, death, and disease. And after that, 2021 and 2022, and now from what we hear, that 2023 we began with a variant, which is even more transmissible than the rest of the variants. That's why I'm urging my fellow citizens to public hygiene in public, to wash your hands with sanitize with soap and water when you go in a domain which is not your private domain. Right, I'm in my private domain. It's a small private domain room, often temple underground. And if I have something bigger, I would have more open house to hug, to kiss, to work out, train, exercise, do push-ups, and dance, and philosophize and create art, songs, write poetry, and ideas for movie scripts and for the development of art. And XYZ. 101 p.m. 101 p.m. So we also have the privileges of technology, privilege of the internet, to connect with all over the world, all those underground cables, all the Wi-Fi, how it works, all the 3G, 4G, 5G now, 5G, all the waves, the science, satellites. In a parallel life, I develop great satellites, supercomputers, ICBM rockets, microchips. In this life, philosophy theories such as this one, the privilege of civilization, which has privileges, plural, multiple, several, which are part of the great privilege of civilization, which we all have. Right? You can go now, you can have a drink, you can drink a beer at a bar, you can go tonight. Tonight's the hockey game. Go Habs, go. Please give 10% for food security, and of course invite your student to dance for each game at the forum to raise funds, blah 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 blah. And of course, the privilege to watch the game via electricity, which is provided, clean, zero pollution, zero energy. Right, we have the stadium, privileges, the transportation, the truckers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, truckers of North America, now going with all those goods, those wearing in warehouses now with steel toe boots, loading and unloading trucks Steel toe boots, loading and unloading trucks, loading and unloading the trucks. Steel toe boot, right? And those who are maybe in the offices in the skyscrapers, Montreal, Toronto, Bay Street, Bay Street, Bay Street. CEOs who made 13.4 million last year. Please give 10%. You don't need another house. You got 7 houses, 7 cars. And I'm not totally selfless. I'm not totally selfless. I want to own a house. I never owned a house. And it seems the houses are more out of reach for millennials, being a millennial myself. I am my call first and foremost is to millennials, but I like and love intergenerational dialogue. I like to give people second chances, third chances, redemption, redemption, redemption. If I did a lot of wrong, perhaps I did. My only redemption is with kisses, first and foremost. With kisses, first and foremost, my redemption is with kisses. 718 trillions of kisses are credited from the goddess. As a universal spiritual teaching student, I say the word goddess. So kisses, if I can kiss all my willingly loving allies and armies, I got trillions of kisses, so I can kiss you over time. So pledge your allegiance, legions, pledge your allegiance, legion, pledge your allegiance. Kisses first and foremost. Kiss for world peace. Kisses got money don't and broke $10,000 in debt. Got some brain and some muscle, and this thesis. The Privilege of Civilization, which just has been the third part with yours truly, Dragon. And analyzing the own privilege, which myself as an independent philosopher, artist, activist, athlete, geopolitical analyst and theorist and universal spiritual teaching student who loves to dance and hobby rap, has utilized. Which privilege have I utilized? I utilized the honey. This honey was made in Quebec. So in any way, food. Thank you, farmer. Thank you, farmer. Thank you, farmer. Thank you, the bees. Kiss the bees. Kiss the bees. Kiss the bees. Not too much, you didn't get stinged. So I got one privilege. Then the coffee. Also the transportation. The highways. Because they were part of me going to the store in Hawkeye, the Montreal metropolis, getting it from about 3 kilometers away from here, or 1.56, half an hour walk east from my underground room Austin Temple, where I've gotten it. I drive my steel toe boots. And now, new boots, new laces, rainbow laces. Thank you, anonymous sister. If I make a million, I'm gonna give her half. So, this honey was transported because it comes from Wotton, in city in Quebec. Is Wotton, Wotton. And of course, it was transported by a truck, most likely, or by a van. So the van went on a highway and on roads which were built over past decades. The transportation interconnected of the supply chains. That's a privilege. So one privilege, the honey that I had, the privilege of giving the finances, which were given to many millions of citizens across Quebec, La Belle Province by the initiative of the government to, of course, fight inflation and to respond to the economic, financial, commercial crises. To give, of course, wealth, to give some funds, some money. Money is basically to buy or sell. That's why the UE, at least for the complex North America, I do believe the creation of the UE stands for Universal Exchange Unit via the implementation of my theory, the DRT, the Debt Refusion Theory is best. And of course, I got another privilege, the housing, right? It's cold, so I'm utilizing the heat from the dams, the electricity from another privilege. So I'm utilizing several privileges. I'm checking so many privileges now. Pop, pop, pop. The electricity. Thank you, workers who build the dams of Hydro-Quebec. With brains and muscle, so many of them. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. To build the maintenance now, Hydro-Quebec truckers. Go Hydro-Quebec, go, trying to restore power. Hydro-Quebec. And going all those dams, all those poles, which are of course laid all across the province, all across Quebec. And I'm utilizing the internet, Wi-Fi connection. Thank you again to my anonymous sister. I start paying half my share, I want to be a productive, contributing member and love and bring joy, some joy, and some healing. And I've done my own share of healing. I don't want to go back to pre-COVID. I've been a bit disappointed, upset, and angry, but I'm gonna take a carpe diem today. I'm gonna have lunch and gonna do what I do, write emails and continue to reach out for cooperation, participation, collaboration in all my artistic, philosophic, athletic activities, as I do as an independent artist, independent athlete, independent activist, AAA plus other dimensions, geopolitical analyst and theorist, universal spiritual teaching student, the people's athlete, the people's doctor, presenting this thesis, the privilege of civilization, which we all have, all citizens, rich, poor, small, black, white, brown, different levels. And we gotta address anti-LGBTQ discrimination. I've been in the open for more than 7 years as being part of the LGBTQ community to address anti-LGBTQ, right, and homophobia and XYZ, right? And it's a constant within ourselves to admit it within ourselves and say, I can do better. I admit it. I might have these biases, which are sometimes subconscious. So many dreams seem so aberrant. I remember some dreams I said I don't remember much about childhood, early adolescence, early adulthood. I remember mostly about the years 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years on this hawk island, Montreal. And as I'm doing it today, everything that I've wrote about the experiences, thing that I wrote about myself in journals, on pieces of paper, on on USB keys online, some things. Remember paradoxically more about past lives. I was born right here in Montreal in a past life. I laugh when I say that memory is so good of a past life as a Quebecer, born in Hawk Island, Montreal, when I helped the strong man Louis Cyr. I helped him to push some horses on a truck. I know it was a truck, but it was a cart. So I said in French, I remember, I said, a vision of a past life, and I said, hey, Louis Cyr, venez m'aider passer les chevaux, parce que les chevaux sont sauvages un peu. Il dit, sauvages un peu, on va l'aider, on va les pousser sur la calèche. So he helped, in a past life, helped Louis Cyr push some horses. I said it in French because I'm a Quebecer, Canadian North American. Helped Louis Cyr push some horses on a cart in a past life. Whether you believe in spirituality, I can be and I am non-dogmatic, non-sectarian, non-dogmatic. I say the word goddess and Mother Nature, planet Earth, Mother Nature, planet Earth, Mother Nature. The sun is my pope. And you, citizens of Quebec, Canada, North Americans, USA, Mexico, and beyond, are my brothers and sisters who pledge allegiance. Allegiance are our de facto family, along with a friend who I call Anonymous Sister, which I had for many years now. And I rock and roll it every day, carpe diem, when I do, and I am open for business, specifically, first and foremost, my dream manifesting as the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom and the dragon empire and the dancing goddess kingdom are one, and the public-private partnership, which I'm calling for as I presented this thesis called the Privilege of Civilization, of which we have different privileges as myself, as you can just see. If I just explored how many different privileges I just had doing this video, well, the honey, because I did not grow the honey. This bread, I'm gonna have privileges, I'm gonna eat it. The baker, the wheat, the farmer of the wheat, somewhere in North America, Canada, USA, perhaps it was imported, the wheat from the USA, as well as the coffee. Most likely the coffee was from Colombia, Brazil, Cuba, it can be Costa Rica or Africa, Uganda, it could be from Ethiopia, Ivory Coast, or it could be from Vietnam, right? It could be from a combination. And the roads, which were used to transport it to the store for me to have it. And the privilege of the money. The money is a means of exchange, buying and selling. Right, so, and the electricity to do this video with clean zero pollution energy, to have my coffee heated, to have my food heated, and everything that I do with the electricity. So that's another privilege added. So many privileges to do this video, to present the thesis called the Privilege of Civilization, that I'm utilizing the services, the internet service provider, the ISP internet service provider on the Wi-Fi. Sure, it can be intercepted, hackers, but don't hack me, I'm broke, and I do watch a little bit of PORN. As a matter of fact, I think if I would be involved in the adult movie industry, I would do a little bit more fair, to be fair for my sisters. And from an LGBTQ perspective, it will have to be a lot of LGBTQ, a lot of rainbow, which we need more of as the adult movement. It has its part, right? It has its part. I'm not a dictator. I'm a pro-labor, universal revolutionary centrist. As adult movie industry, if I would do it, I would be with more dancing and more kissing and definitely more cunnilingus. And if I could do whatever with consent, of course, consent and cunnilingus or whatever, dancing and tickling for world peace, for world peace, for world peace. What are you willing to do? And my thesis, the privilege of civilization. Adrian Hanna, dragon androgynous pansexual founder of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, who's not perfect, far, far from it. And I do believe in my Trinity theories as a pro-labor universal revolutionary centers to be implemented to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions of the international citizen integrated social security and service force, aka the Dragon Army, to be for service and security in the 21st century, for the rebirth of the complex of North American civilization, to propel North America united into a dynamic, just, insured, with freedom ensured, and strong and powerful superpower of the 21st century, with joy and pleasure and purpose and pleasure, the principle to guide us. Pleasure and purpose, purpose and pleasure to guide us in the 21st century. Purpose and pleasure for all my North American brothers and sisters, and to be aware and meditate that we have, all of us, whether rich or poor, whether XYZ factors, whether a CEO making 13.4 million a year annual salary of somebody who's made 7,000 last year, 7,700 being on social assistance, and in the economically starving artist, as the go is, like myself, starving artist. I'm not starving, I'm not starving, as the saying goes, of course, a struggling artist such as myself. If you're a multi-millionaire artist, please finance other artists, let somebody artists eat, because y'all had enough on the plate. Y'all had a good time, 7 years, and made good rapping, multi-millions, and boxers, multi-millions, and athletes, many, many millions in dollars, and 7 houses, 7 cars. Please let somebody else eat, because there's some of us who are hungry out there, Privileges of civilization, as I checked them, have several just in doing this video, right? The electricity, the housing, the food, the honey, the Wi-Fi, the internet, which is the internet service provider built with brains and muscle, and all those assemblies of all those Wi-Fi telecommunications, and of course the waves, which are natural but discovered scientifically, the transmission of course, sound, and the transmission of knowledge, information across cables, and undersea, with the Facebook, of course, created via software, and those servers there in Hackerway, whatever it is, in California, Palo Alto, or whatever it is, XYZ, East, West, North, South, across this world, being able to connect via Facebook to almost all parts of the world, and with there's new tech arising such as Starlink, go Starlink. Love you. Make with consent love tonight is the main message, and I encourage all to work out, train, exercise, and encourage all to work out, to train, and to exercise. This has been the third and final part of the privilege of civilization. Yours truly, the people's athlete, the people's philosopher, the people's doctor, presenting this thesis called the privilege of civilization, of which we all have the privilege. We all have it. All of citizens of Canada, all of citizens, whether president or CEO or multi-millionaire or of course financially struggling, we all have the privilege of civilization, and each and every one of us citizens in a different way, whether we're on the roads, we have a certain privilege of utilizing the highway, a certain privilege of utilizing the railways, or going by the train, or going by the plane, or of course watching a sport, or doing an activity, or of course doing XYZ to be of security, whether to do XYZ or pride parade or whatever it is we have, whatever we do, watching sports or communicating online, or even watching maybe, or I don't know, some XYZ factors and XYZ. We have different privileges, such as my health sub, the food privilege, the housing, I have a room, which is my underground small room off St. Temple, and the internet connections, scientific privilege, and also the privilege of the other privileges, such as, of course, the entertainment, which is also privilege of civilization, to watch entertainment and to watch the news, and the privilege of the internet, the privilege of the internet, the privilege of the internet. I put it online, and I'm gonna eat, and we're gonna rock and roll, because I need to eat.